All right, and we're live for the last session of the day and the one that everyone has been waiting for, the President's Debate. So thank you everyone so much for your support and attendance throughout for the ongoing debate series. So we are here on the last session, and we have Dominic, who is the president candidate, as well as Grion, who is the current president of MUSA. So before we begin, let's take a look at the itinerary. All right, so right now we're at the introduction, and it will be followed by the opening statement by the candidate. After that, we'll be having a Q&A session with the office bearer, followed by the Q&A from students. So for the students who is watching right now in the audience, if you have any questions for the candidate in regards to their policy or manifesto or any of the answers that they have given, please drop it down in the comments and we'll reach there when we get to the Q&A session. So to wrap up, we'll be having the closing statement from the candidate, and that will bring us to an end to the whole debate series. All right, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dominic for the opening statement.
Okay, hi. Good evening to the ROs, office bearers, and current and future students watching this debate. My name is Dominic, and I'm running for the position of President of MUSA 2022 under my party, Ignitas. I'm a Year 2 student taking a double degree in Business and Arts, and my friends would describe me as friendly and caring, but also honest and fair. Before I move on to detailing my manifesto, however, I would like to talk more about my aspirations for MUSA 2022 and why I created the party Ignitas. For the past 2 years, Monasians have had to be content with online classes as we continue the struggle against COVID-19. Students have struggled with both their physical and mental health while receiving less than adequate support from those around them. I'm running for president because I believe that I can bring a positive change to the lives of all Monasians, but I can't do it alone, hence why I created Ignitas. Ignitas, meaning blaze in Latin, is a symbolic word for our party. Fire has traditionally been a symbol of change, rebirth, peace, and hope. Therefore, as a party, we want to be able to bring change to our campus to create a more friendly, positive environment where every student is accepted and provided the opportunity to enrich themselves. And I believe that this starts with our leaders in MUSA. As MUSA was established to be the voice of the Monash student community, it is important for our leaders in MUSA to be strong. However, I believe that MUSA can be so much more than what it is now. With that being said, I would first like to give credit to my colleagues in MUSA 2021 for their efforts in carrying out their duties and doing their best for the student body, despite the difficult circumstances. As an office bearer myself, I fully understand how hard it is to cater to the student body while also taking care of your own mental health and personal issues. So thank you so much for your efforts. However, from a student's perspective, it seems as though MUSA is not doing enough for the student body. As someone who occasionally reviews various student feedback, including the Monash Confessions page, it is alarming to note the volume of frustrations that students have, not just about MUSA, but also Monash in general. Just recently, I was questioned about my ability to lead MUSA 2022 based on my performance as head of the CNS division. Based on the current performance of clubs and societies, I will be the first to admit that yes, I definitely could have done better as CNS head. It's important for MUSA to listen and act accordingly to the voices of the students. But it's extremely concerning that we have reached a point where students have taken to voicing their concerns through other mediums like Confessions page rather than reaching out to MUSA via its official platforms. It signifies that we have lost the trust of the students and that students view MUSA as an organization that works against them. I believe that as president, my main priority is to regain the trust of the students and to assure them that we work with the students' best interests in mind. And to do so, MUSA as an organization has to change the way that we approach students as well as address their issues. This is the main reason behind the formation of Ignitas. Together with my party members, I want to adopt a more holistic approach with all parties to make campus a better place for everyone. A major challenge that MUSA faces currently is that although we can carry out our day-to-day operations, there is plenty of room for improvement in how we deal with student welfare and complaints. Some of these can be resolved with better communications practices, while others will require a further review of our operations and how we approach them. In addition, I believe that MUSA as a whole, especially the executives, need to be more accountable for their actions. Thus, establishing a work culture that is open-minded, friendly, approachable, and open to feedback is key to ensuring that office bearers are accountable for their actions. Additionally, by reworking our publicity program, coupled with an increased frequency of e-forums and improved methods of communication, will ensure that students will reach out to MUSA with their issues. But MUSA can no longer sit on the sidelines and wait for students to reach out to us. We have to take the initiative to approach students and find new ways to obtain feedback from them, and to take this feedback seriously. Lastly, one of the biggest weaknesses in MUSA is that each office bearer's term is limited to only 1 year, leading to a lot of inconsistencies between different terms of MUSA office bearers. For an organization as big as MUSA, which has over 200 members, it is concerning that we don't have a consistent way of operating. I believe that long-term strategic planning is essential to ensure that MUSA is on track to achieve its goals and objectives, not just for 2022, but also for future generations of MUSA as well. As such, we are working on a blueprint that will highlight the goals and objectives that MUSA 2022 wants to achieve and when to achieve them by. And with that, I thank you for your time and welcome questions from the floor.
Thank you, Dominic, for your opening statement. So without any further delay, we'll move into the Q&A session with the office bearer. All the best, and the floor is yours, everyone.
Dominic, you do mention that you have e-forums on frequently to the student community. While we have MSc feedback forms, how do you make the difference between these two forms?
Okay. Your question is directed towards the various forms of feedback that we have to, like for example, MSc feedback form and then the e-forum, right? As the current office bearer this year, I also participated in the e-forum, and both of us know that the turnout of the e-forum wasn't exactly as expected. Additionally, the VPs report on the responses of the MSc feedback form every MSc, but also the responses aren't exactly favorable. So in that regard, I would say that referring to Brandon's speech earlier, the general secretary candidate, we have as MUSA lost the interest, lost the trust of the students. Like if we as MUSA cannot perform, how are the students expected to reach out to us to solve their issues? The students have lost their trust in us, and therefore they don't trust us, or they cannot confide in us to solve their issues. And that's why the response rate is low. Like we can try as much times to reach out to them and then say, fill in this form. But as long as they can see that no action is being taken, this thing is not going to work. So as such, I believe that increasing the number of frequency of like e-forum or the forms, it is a good idea, but it's not the most ideal solution. The most ideal solution is to capture back the trust of the students and show them that we are actually doing something to improve student welfare. And that starts by acknowledging that MUSA is at fault and that we have to own up for our own actions.
Okay, so for e-forum, because under present portfolio, you have a MUSA forum. So is there a theme for this forum? Or if it's different, who will be working on this e-forum? Because understanding that President, you have 13 portfolio on the handbook, and by nature, you do have other tasks on your hand as well.
Mm-hmm. So for the e-forum, the way that the current e-forum is being conducted, I have to say that we don't have concrete data to back it up because our e-forum had almost no participants. However, I believe that students need a direct way to reach the office bearers. Like we as MUSA seem a bit too distant to students right now. And I think that by opening up the e-forum to not just the president who is accountable to the entirety of MUSA for his actions, we should also open up to other office bearers to attend as well, so that when students have any issues, they can directly come to the e-forum and they can approach any office bearer at all. Like, for example, if there are education-related issues, school reps being present in an e-forum will dramatically increase the efficiency and the accurateness of the responses. For example, I, as a School of Business student, may not exactly know what's going on in School of Science. So having the SOS rep there would avoid miscommunication, and you have information directly from the source.
Okay, impressive. So this direct to your election guide, as I believe I prepared 4 questions for you. And referring to the questions of the election guide, what role does President play in MUSA? And state the roles and responsibility of President as not listed in MUSA handbook. Do you have any further elaborations besides the answer you provide in the election guide?
Okay, so in the election guide, I stated that the president is responsible for the overall direction and accountability for the actions of MUSA. I would like to add on that the president is also responsible as a spokesperson of MUSA to liaise with external parties, for example, MSA, Australia management, MONSU, all of that. And I know that as president, you also are busy reviewing policies that are presented to MUSA before they are approved.
Any more?
I think that's it for now, yeah.
Okay, so this is the feedback for worker president role. As a president, you're also representative of whole student populations and community in Monash in Malaysia. So what you actually will also need to do is you're looking for opportunity for student development. This means that when you work with external parties, you also look for good, better opportunity for students to engage and also to interact. Okay, so my next question is for your opening speech just now, you say you're friendly, you're fair persons. So in MUSA office, you will work with almost more than 200 individuals and more, like maybe management, etc. So there are different individuals with different behavior, their perspective and their culture, which sometimes you end up have a conflict of opinion, and there's also argument as well. So how will we work with this individual when you are in the operations?
Okay, to answer this question, I believe that even though everyone's culture is different, everyone is still a human being. There are the basic same tenets of human that we all want. Like, all of us are just students of Monash. We just want to be able to graduate in peace, but also, and for those of us in MUSA, we just want to be able to finish our job in peace and productivity. So I will refer to my experience as CNS head. So in CNS, half of our executives are international students. Other subcoms are also international students. What a leader should do is provide a work culture that is open and friendly. Like, the leader sets the precedent for the tone of cooperation for all members in the organization. So if the leader is strict, the organization will be strict. If the leader is casual, the environment within the organization will be casual. So I intend to set an environment for everyone to work in that is productive, also casual, and we want to focus on all the main goals and objectives to be accomplished by MUSA, and not just independent within your own division and then not looking towards the betterment of MUSA.
Okay, so this direct to next question, which is kind of relatable to what you have done now. Since you are head of CNS, which you operate and also manage the division by yourself. But in MUSA, it's a parliament-based structure student associations, which means all office bearers have their own portfolio. They also have their own leadership to manage their own department or divisions. So how will you be using the current experience to guide the whole team when the nature of MUSA is parliament-based? Can I explain it?
Okay, so in CNS currently right now, although I am the head of the division, I will not say that I know best compared to my executives. There is a sports officer, there is a publicity officer, there is a secretary for a reason. The leader is not omnipresent and has to rely on their subordinates to get things done. So because MUSA is such a large organization, there are 18 departments in total in MUSA. Each office bearer has their own way of doing things. So as such, right, you need to be able to allow each department to voice their own way of doing things while also allowing them the freedom to do things their own way. Yeah.
Okay, it's actually 16 department and 2 division for information.
Sorry, 18 entities, yes.
Then, yeah, so since every department has their own freedom to voice their opinion and also they have their own operation, this is also what happened in MUSA 2021, which we have a freedom of speech of everything within the office, but it also end up to have like office barrier to have their own group to operate with. Maybe like some department have their own communication group. So this always tend to happen regardless in on campus and off campus. How you can ensure you can reduce this such issue inside the office when two situations, one is on campus when you're in the MUSA office, another one is when off campus, which is current online.
Okay, to answer this question, I believe that by setting a proper work culture from the start, you need to establish a working relationship with your colleagues. So I believe that in Ignitas, we already have an advantage because all of us had come together earlier. And since the day that Ignitas was formed, almost every night we have had meetings to discuss our future plans and objectives, mock debates to discuss how to answer certain questions. So I believe that this sets the tone that makes it easier for MUSA 2022 if we are elected to operate both online and offline. However, in the context of online and offline, I would address the context of online first. We intend to have more bonding sessions with office bearers. Currently, the issue is that office bearers do not know each other well enough and trust each other well enough that we are close enough to like work together closely. So I believe that by having more bonding sessions, it will be possible for us to work better together. This is what I believe that MUSA 2021 lacks. For example, we have only had one office bearer bonding session since the start of our term. So I believe the frequency of bearer bonding sessions should be increased. In the case of offline, since all of us will be going back to office, we will be seeing each other every day. So it means that this seeing each other on campus presents a better situation for all of us to work together. Like this is what happened in pre-2020, like before everything was online. The cooperation between everyone was a bit smoother because everyone could see each other and discuss everything in detail.
Okay, so for the office barrier bonding sessions, indeed, there's always attempt of MUSA office to work on the bonding sessions. And when you're in office, basically for next year, if you get elected, all office bearers have their own portfolio to work with and their responsibility. So there always have times that where all office bearers are not able to attend for the bonding session, in which they have to do their own preparations, since the department has their member and also they got different meeting based on their committee or their liaison, maybe with management or maybe particular case basis. How you can ensure this such bonding session will be effective and efficient when this will be based on the voluntary basis, whether the office bearer will join these sessions.
Okay, to answer this question, yes, I do admit everyone does have their own schedules. Everyone's schedule is busy. They are busy with academics, their own department. So they may not have time for bonding sessions. So to make it easier on everyone, it is better to make it a regular occurrence. So like, for example, we meet on the first Saturday evening of every month to have a bonding session. So having a regular schedule would make it easier for office bearers to arrange their schedules around it and make sure that you can make yourself available to join the office bearer bonding session. We also plan to have more chill sessions for office bearers to join for everyone to bond together, for those who are interested at least. So they can join and then they can bond with each other. And then, by bonding together in 2019 and before, office bearers who left the office at night used to go to the mamak to talk. This is a MUSA culture that if we go back to being on campus, we want to bring back. So in the sense that if we are still remaining online, this is something that we still want to do. Like there's no problem with having online chat rooms for us to, rant, relax every day. It's comforting for you to be in the company of friends every day when you have so many things on your plate. So to answer the question, yes, I believe that having regular bonding sessions would be a better addition. An addition if it is better if it's scheduled.
Okay, so this is not a wise and also a reminder as a senior and also as office bearer in the past as well. So I believe since you are head of CNS, you also have your own commitment right now, which you know what you are doing. But for presidents, you have different job role at the same time, which you will end up having no time to work on different way. And the meeting, I would say basically every day you also have your own respective meeting. So how you can ensure the consistent of bonding sessions to hold when you are the one who always have a way of the operations?
Okay, so I believe that the most important thing that, as for a president, is time management. You need to be able to allocate your time in order to be able to finish everything at the same time. Of course, in year 3, there's a lot of challenges to face in terms of academics. And then there's also MUSA, your president job scope. But it is also possible, like if you really want something, you will make time for it. So I believe that it is possible for myself to make time to have these bonding sessions with other office bearers. In addition, if I myself cannot hold the bonding session myself, like if I'm not free enough that particular week to organize all the events and host the session, why is it not a problem? Like, why is it a problem not to, sorry, is it not an okay thing to ask other office bearers also who are interested, who are to hold the bonding sessions. Like for example, it doesn't have to be the president all the time who has the bonding sessions. We are a team. So in that vein of thought, other office bearers also can take on that responsibility, as we need to work together, not that everything is piled onto the president.
Okay. Under your manifesto, you do mention on your second point of manifesto, you say you work on the overall accountability by implementing a system to address the current issue and problem raised by a student and office bearer, ensuring all issues reach a destination. How you work on this?
Okay, so the initial plan, this is 2 steps. So one thing that we want to do is implement a tracker system. So this year in CNS, and we've implemented a tracker system for financial proposals so that clubs can see that update status of their financial funds and everything, whether it's approved, whether it's still pending, whether it's been rejected. So I believe that implementing a tracker is a good idea so that students can see what exactly is the status of their complaint. Like, are we processing it? What are the steps being taken? All of this is essential for a tracker. And second thing is that there are a lot of issues to be handled between the office bearers and students. So there needs to be not just one, but multiple trackers. One to handle student issues, but another to handle updates and progress from within MUSA. MUSA itself, there is an issue with lack availability of information. There is a lack of information available to other office bearers regarding the internal affairs of, let's say, one department. So by having a tracker, office bearers can easily find out like what is the status of a certain issue, what is being done to resolve it. And the same goes for the students tracker as well.
Do you know the function of MSC is actually the overall accountability system?
MSC, yes, is meant to highlight student issues and is meant for MSC to report on exactly, departments to report on exactly what is being done. However, the MSC turnout is very low in recently especially because it's online. Therefore, having a tracker that is permanently there, is visible for students to see the status of their complaint compared to having to join MSC. Like, if you were a student and I were to tell you, okay, MSC is happening on Saturday, come join, but it's several hours long. Would you be interested in joining? Of course, you would rather see the tracker where the tracker can show the status of your complaint.
That's a reason why MSC have a meeting minutes, and also for MUSA 2021, it's already implement an MSC feedback form for office bearer to present all the issue and also for the outcome status. There's a reason financial aids which have updated by MUSA on the availability of financial support now. So I would say for your accountability tracker, this you need to revise and also discuss with the team, because one thing, as the office bearer who went through on-campus MUSA culture, I would say such a system will make into efficiency for your operation, since you have to cope with on-campus and off-campus situations. Same goes with the online situations. Your tracker might be effective in short term, but in the long run, it will be inefficient tools. So you need to find a better way to work on this. This is my advice.
Okay, duly noted.
Okay, so while president, you mostly focus on your internal operations, which I can see from your manifesto and also portfolio. So is there any new initiative that will implement for the student community in year 2022?
Okay, so yes, I do have one initiative plan. It's called MUSA Rewards. I think you will know that this is inspired from MSA Rewards. It will incorporate aspects such as the initiative called MUSA Card for 2021. It is meant to be an all-in-one umbrella initiative to incorporate all sorts of activities from MUSA. And basically, it will provide both benefits to students and MUSA, in the sense where, for example, the MUSA card was intended to bring benefits such as discounts for students for selected partner merchants, discounts for, but the MUSA rewards will also feature, let's say, discounts for MUSA merchandise or related merchandising. MUSA Rewards is also intended to provide MUSA with a platform to generate an alternative source of income. For example, it's easier for us to, once we establish the brand privilege, it's easier for us to reach out to other brands to inquire if they are interested in our program. We provide them a market for them to access, and we also it provides us access to sponsorships. And based on the reduction in budget from previous years, MUSA is now in sore need of alternative income in case, especially since like an offline semester will result in additional expenses incurred. So this will help in our efforts to acquire funding.
Okay, it's good that you want to continue the MUSA Card initiative, which is something which is you mentioned as MUSA Award. So this is related to MUSA Award, which is what you say you want to continue as MUSA Card. The issue for MUSA Card has on hold for this year is due to the COVID-19 situations, which all students cannot accommodate and also receive the same beneficial. So that's why the MUSA Card project is on hold. So what will you do on year 2022 to ensure this initiative can accommodate for all students, regardless they're on campus and off campus, they're in Malaysia and not in Malaysia? So everyone have the same beneficiaries. And well, decision-making style, are you looking forward to one particular or student population or overall students beneficial?
Okay, so because MUSA Rewards has not been implemented, and also because of so many factors, and that's why MUSA Card has not been implemented, the idea is to implement MUSA Rewards within within Malaysia first, like within Sunway City, because it's easier for us to, Monash has a reputation, it's easier for us to reach out to partner merchants who are within Sunway area. That's the beginning. And then that's how we will initially launch MUSA Rewards. As for your question as to how will it benefit all students, we intend to reach out to the bigger merchants, like for example, Monash Australia, the MSA, their MSA Rewards has like for example a 20% reward on McDonald's. So we want to reach out to, let's say, online shopping platforms as well, such as Shopee, to see if they can accommodate us and then provide a certain discount, for example, for members of MUSA Rewards. That is the long-term plan for MUSA Rewards.
Okay, these no questions, but these are advice on that. So, well, it's good that you have an idea on getting this reward from the big company or maybe a big business. But I will advise you to think twice and also do some research, because this actually relate to their profit and also ROI. So what make the company to collaborate with you is based on what they can get in return. That's happening in this year, and we have do a lot of collaboration. I believe you know that we have worked with Shopee and also more company right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this you need to think what can be beneficial for our partner and also what can be beneficial for students. So this is my advice.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you, Office Bearer, for your questions, and thank you, candidates, for your answers. So now we'll proceed to the Q&A with the audience. There's a lot of questions coming in, but for the audience, if you still have any more questions, please keep it coming. Please take note that we will be filtering through the questions in the scenario where there are any repetition or if it has already been answered. Okay, so we'll first start with Mikey's question. I understand that maintaining the internal MUSA structure is important, but how sure are you that you can back it up? The term is 1 year. So can you ensure this ideology won't die down after a few months?
Dom, you're muted.
I didn't mute it. Okay. So I understand that, yes, you're right. The term is only 1 year. How to ensure this ideology won't die down? In my opinion, implementing a structure is very important to how an organization functions. Like once the structure is there, it's easier for future generations of office bearers to carry out initiatives. For example, the constitution is there for a reason. Like that presents a form of structure already to MUSA. So how sure am I that I can back it up? I believe that once, for example, the handbook is also another example of an initiative that has been passed down through the years. So I believe that by working with all the other office bearers with their full cooperation, it is definitely possible for us to maintain and create a structure that can last throughout the years. And with regards to whether it will die down or not, this one will rely on whether our predecessors would follow the structure. But since we have already provided it for them, it makes no sense for them not to follow it.
All right, thank you for your answer. So for Mikey, if that answers your question, I hope that answers your question. If you do have any follow-up, feel free to drop it in the comments. Okay, so moving on, we have the question from Casper. Since the e-forum failed, how are you confident in pushing this new initiative?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest here. The e-forum did fail, yes. How confident am I in pushing this new initiative? I believe that the first thing to do is capture the trust of the students first. Without that trust, MUSA as a body is ineffective at its current objective and goals. So how confident am I in pushing this new initiative? I'm confident that it can succeed, but it will require not just the cooperation from office bearers, but also the students. We need to acknowledge that MUSA is lacking in certain areas, and then we need to acknowledge that feedback is required from students, and then we need to explore other ways that we can obtain feedback from students. Yes, MSC is the official feedback platform. Students are encouraged to come to MSC to present their issues. All students are open to come to MSC. In fact, the meetings details are published on Instagram. So why is it that even though that the opportunity is there, then MSC feedback form is there, why is it that no students are coming to voice their issues to Monash? It's because they don't trust in MUSA to solve their issues. So I'm confident that yes, it is possible to carry out this initiative, even if only 1 or 2 people come at first for the e-forum. I believe that is a success, and it's a right move, and it's a move in the right direction already.
All right, thank you for your answer. So circling back to Mikey's question just now, he did want to clarify that he was referring to how you will be sure that this ideology won't die down within a few months during your term, not the other way around.
Okay, so to answer this question, I believe that, I'm confident that I can establish a work culture that will ensure that all office bearers are motivated throughout their entire term. It's the responsibility of a leader and also the responsibility of a president to ensure that all office bearers can continue to work in a productive environment. So I'm sure in my term that I won't let this down. Yes.
All right, thank you for clarifying. Hope, Mikey, you've gotten your clarification. So moving on, we have a question from Namira. Amazing speech. In your manifesto, you mentioned that you wanted to streamline the management. Since each department requires a very different management style, how do you think this will or may disrupt the personal and current operations? And how would you carry this out without making it look like you're micromanaging?
Okay, so for this one, right? Yes, every office bearer has their own voice and the freedom to make their own decision. What I will be doing as president is reviewing how each department handles their internal operations, make suggestions that will improve the inefficiencies within, and I will not. I won't go in and I will tell them exactly what they need to do in order to be better. The role of a president and a leader is to guide people basically. So yes, it's hard to do, but as long as all the office bearers are open-minded and establishing once the work culture is established that is open-minded and students are and office bearers I need to breathe. Okay, once I establish a work culture that office bearers are comfortable in working with, we will also review the the operations within each department and make suggestions together. I will not enforce certain actions that each department needs to take, because each office bearer also has a voice. Every office bearer is equally as important as the other. Just because that I am the president does not mean that you, as for example an activities chairperson, is any less important. So this is my answer.
All right, thank you for your answer. Moving forward, we'll take a look at Zari's question. how will you change the approach you take to obtain the trust of the students, and how confident are you that it will be effective? So you may have a minute to think and also catch up
All right.
with your thoughts.
Okay, so currently MUSA adopts an approach. Okay, just for lack of a better word, we are a billboard by the side of the highway showing that, every day we change a poster on our MUSA Instagram. So I'm not saying that this is a bad approach. I'm just saying that this is not the best approach. So we need to change our approach in such a way that we are more student centric. For example, we need to approach students to find out why exactly MUSA is underperforming and what exactly needs to be done. So in such case, we need to, okay, so for example, under MUSA, there are 50 plus office bearers, but however, there are also around 200 subcom. So from these 200 subcom, you can already get the feedback what MUSA exactly can do better in their term and what exactly needs to be done to be changed. For example, we can also have focus groups with students to find out what exactly is being done and what students expect to see in effective MUSA, so that MUSA can become a voice of change for students.
All right. So before moving forward to the next question, there is a follow-up by the office bearer. So over to you.
Dom, I hope you understand that in MUSA we have different committee, which that there are 7 committee. One is media affair committee. So this trust of students will also link to the discussion among the committee itself. So as a head of a media affair committee, you need to work with the committee first before you relate to all office bearers. Similar to what question by Mikey just now, which this also will affect most of their ideology. Since if you always relate on discussions with a big group, it's always tend to be delay on the decisions. That's why we have different committee inside MUSA itself. So you really need to make sure what tools, what platform to use before you make the big decisions. Since, as usual, MUSA is a big student organization. Please think on that.
Yep, noted.
All right.
Yeah.
So moving forward, we'll go to the next question. This one is more specific. Given that no one contested for SOB, how do you plan to work with the interims and future SOB reps since they're independent candidates? Will there be bias towards your own party in comparison to them?
Okay, I believe myself to be a fair person, and I believe myself to be a fair and open-minded person. So I don't believe that just because SOB, there's no one for SOB now, and there's an interim in the future, that I should treat them any less compared to one of my party members. So no, I don't. I wouldn't say that I will be more biased to them than other things. Like in MUSA, I believe the most important thing is your work ethic and your willingness to serve. Like it's not okay. I am a nicer person than you. I should receive more attention than you. It's not that kind of thing. So I believe that by establishing our work culture currently, we'll be able to work with the interims and future SOB reps. Yeah. Sorry for the bad responses. I am having anxiety attack. Yes.
All right. No worries. You can take a breather. So before we move on to the next question, I'll just remind our audience that if any of the questions that were listed today was not asked to the candidate, or if you would like to seek for further clarification, but you didn't have the chance to during this session, you may also comment below on the KYC profile on the official MUSA Instagram page. All right. And please try to look into the questions in regards to policies and manifestos rather than on the performance of the individual currently. All right. As this is the opportunity for you to get to know them better as a potential future president candidate rather than their current role that they hold. Okay. So moving forward, we have a question that I feel is related in 2 questions. So I'll ask the first part before moving on to the second part. So for both questions, it is related to the manifesto in which you have mentioned you're a fair individual. So firstly, how will you enhance the fairness in the MUSA Constitution? And would you conduct any additions to the Constitution?
Okay, yes, I mentioned in my manifesto that I'm a fair individual. I believe that the MUSA Constitution was last rewritten in 2019, and it was rewritten like that for a reason. As of currently, I don't believe there are any major amendments that are required to be made to the Constitution. Um, the role of the HAC in MUSA is to assist in the interpretation of the Constitution, and I believe that if there are any issues with the interpretation of the Constitution, it is more than reasonable to call in a few members of the HAC in order to assist in the interpretation of the MUSA Constitution. This is, of course, to assist the GenSec, yes.
All right. So following this, also from Zari, he reiterates that you did mention your leadership style is friendly, casual, and compassionate. So how will your leadership be firm to limit leniency, especially when you are running a party that you have established?
I believe that everyone should be responsible for their own actions. Like, when you sign up for this role, you acknowledge that you are responsible for any future actions that you conduct in this role. And as a person, I believe I have a strong moral compass, and I believe that if you sign up for something, you started something, you should finish it. So, to answer your question, how will your leadership be firm to limit leniency, especially as you are running a party you establish? Although that I established this party, I do not believe that any one person in this party is better than the other. I believe that everyone should try their best and must work their best in order to achieve the goals that MUSA 22 has assigned. So my leadership style is to be strict when the situation requires. As long as in reference to Brandon, the General Secretary's his manifesto, he will establish a KPI system to ensure that MUSA office bearers are performing up to task. So according to that KPI system and additional case by case basis, we will be strict on how to ensure. We will be strict on the leadership style and make sure that if someone is not performing, they be made aware of it, and we will address the issue as fast as possible to ensure that MUSA will perform better in the future.
All right, thank you for your answer. So I'll just shift the direction a bit on the questions. So we did have one question. For next year, if let's say we have on-campus studies, how would you navigate the whole MUSA to revamp or to readapt to the culture? You may also provide examples to back up your answer.
Okay, regarding your question, how to navigate the whole of MUSA to revamp or readapt the new culture? Since we are online now and my team is already working with each other on how to better improve MUSA in the future, we have already established a working relationship with one another. So there is a culture already that is been established. So if things were to transition back to offline, most of us will be in the office, and even though that we will be in the office, our online platforms will still remain. And at the end of the day, after class is over and everything, either we will be in the office or we'll go back home, and that is when we can still keep in contact with one another. The culture, of course, will be adapted. It won't be revamped because the culture is an existing culture, and for us to revamp the whole thing, it does not make sense. As for convincing examples, this is the first time since 2019, because we have this pandemic is okay. COVID-19 came in 2019, and then our lockdown started in 2020. So I don't believe there is a precedence to such a situation. Yeah.
All right. So moving forward, this was a point that you actually raised up earlier. So it's to further elaborate, who will be responsible for pricing strategies for the MUSA rewards? Since current OBs have a full workload, and having additional members and committee will put strain on the budget.
Okay, so for this one, I believe that this will require further discussion with the other members who will be working on MUSA rewards. Currently, this is an initiative that is hasn't really been fully thought out. I will admit that. So the plan is to recruit an ELO because before this, MUSA has not really had a need for sponsorships. So now we will need to place heavier emphasis on recruiting an ELO and then having discussions with the rest of MUSA and the relevant committees to ensure that pricing strategies can be implemented properly and reasonably so that all students who are members can enjoy benefits.
All right. So there was one question that came in that's seconded by a lot of students. So we'll draw our attention to that. From Christy, I've been informed by the editor candidates of 2022 that you have offered them voting rights, which means it would take away Monga's neutrality to report on MUSA's performance. How would this improve transparency since you have been emphasizing on this?
Okay, so regarding this comment that I made to the editor candidates of 2022, it was based on the idea behind this. To give some context into the conversation was that we wanted to improve and connect reduce the distance between the various MUSA departments, and that includes editors. So it was just a passing comment that I mentioned to the editors. I was wondering, would it improve reduce the distance between the editors within MUSA, or would it not? And this was something that I decided I would not have been following up upon previously.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll move on to the next question. So moving back into the earlier questions, there's one question from Alia which mentioned you've emphasized on bonding sessions to strengthen relations between your MUSA peers. But as KL has mentioned, they may be busy with their academic and personal schedules. So my question is, how do you plan to ensure their welfare is taken care of and to make sure that they're not overwhelmed?
Okay, so you asked how to make sure that they are not overwhelmed by the excessive bonding sessions, but I believe that is exactly the point of these bonding sessions, to ensure that office bearers get to relieve stress. So having these bonding sessions should not be seen as a drawback, but actually a positive, because office bearers get to bond and release stress over the period of a long day, long week, long month. So yes, these bonding sessions should be viewed as a positive instead of a negative for office bearers.
All right. So following that, we have a question from Alia as well, but a different Alia. You mentioned about boosting accountability in your manifesto. So would that mean that MUSA 2021 may not have been taking care of their accountability?
Okay, when I said that I wanted to boost accountability in my manifesto, I did not mean that MUSA 2021 was not being accountable for their actions. So what I meant to say was MUSA 2021 could be doing better in terms of accountability. For example, back in the previous MSc, there was a student, I will not be mentioning specific names during this debate. There was a student who is common knowledge that ISP is a current issue in Monash. So there was a student who had issues with their visa and then had to return to their home country. But because of ISP's lack of attention, not lack of attention, because of ISP negligence or along those lines. Sorry, having a panic. Sorry. Okay, but because of ISP, this issue wasn't resolved appropriately. So I've seen the email and I know that, for example, Muis was CC'd in the email. However, Muis did not reach out to the student regarding this issue. So based on that, we can see that MUSA is accustomed to caring, like MUSA is accustomed to being the behind the scenes. We are not student centric enough. We, instead of that, we should also take the initiative to reach out to students to make sure that they are okay, like to make sure that their welfare is being taken care of. And if not, then what can we do to improve it? Making students feel like they are being cared about is also one thing that MUSA 2021 needs to improve on. So this is what I mean by taking overall accountability, not insinuating that MUSA 2021 is not taking accountability for the actions, but what I mean is that it can be done in a better way.
All right. So before moving forward, just heads up to the audience that we may experience a slight delay as there's an overwhelming number of questions coming in. But with that being said, we will still be only streamlining and selecting a few questions to be answered before we wrap up the session with the closing statement. All right. So please ensure that the questions you ask are relevant and helps you in making the right decision for the upcoming votes. Okay. So moving forward, I think we'll take this question from Daniel to follow up in regards to your leadership style. So would you consider yourself to be a more bureaucratic leader or a more democratic leader? And how do you think your leadership style would affect MUSA as a whole?
Okay, so you asked if I would consider myself to be a more bureaucratic leader or democratic leader. My answer is that I will consider myself a bit of both. I believe that rules should be followed for a certain reason, but I also believe that office bearers also have their own right to voice out their own concerns. So in terms of how this leadership style will affect MUSA as a whole, I believe that heavier emphasis on following the rules and regulations and being equipped with the knowledge to do so is important for us to move forward. For example, an increase in constitutional knowledge would greatly help MUSA office bearers with their operations. Whereas being democratic, for example, is better because during MSc, for example, it's a room for discussion, it's a period for discussion. However, sometimes we as office bearers even may not be so active during MSc. So in order to facilitate, more discussion as well as the better efficiency in our job scope, I believe that it is I believe that it is essential to have both bureaucratic style and democratic style.
All right, thank you for your response. So for those of you who still have a question, you may drop it in, especially for questions that you really would like to know the answer to. Before we proceed, for any questions that were unanswered, you may also drop it into the comment section on the KYC profile for the candidate to answer, or you may also reach out to him directly to get a better perspective. But please be reminded, of course, to remain respectful and make sure your questions are as objective as possible, as this will help you to make an informed decision on the votes. So when it comes to voting, something for all you to take note of for those who are watching, students with voting rights, that as for positions that only have one candidate contesting for the role, you will have to remember that you can have the option to vote for or to abstain. So if you're to abstain, the vote will not go to the candidate and instead will remain uncounted. So in order for that candidate to be able to achieve or be elected for the role that they are running for, they must ensure that they have achieved at least 50% of the votes. All right. So I hope that clarifies, and do stay tuned for the Instagram post, which will be coming in the next few days in regards to the process on how to vote, as well as why you should exercise your right to vote. And yeah, last but not least, in regards to the voting period will begin starting next Tuesday at 10 a.m. So do take note of your emails, as that will be the platform where you get access to the voting form. And also, you only have one vote, so make sure you make it count. All right. So with the time we have left, we will take a look at what other questions there are. And I think we will only go through at least one or two more questions before we bring it to an end. All right. So thank you so much for the audience. And Dom, you have a lot of supporters. So hope this gives you a peace of mind as well. Okay. So moving on, we had one question that was resent. So it was slightly adjusted from Zari. This is in regards to your office bearer position. So, what are the unique achievements that you believe you have achieved as CNS head, and what are the mistakes you have conducted? I would advise when tackling this question to select potentially one of your key achievement and one key mistake that you feel like you have received the learning upon. And based on that, how will you utilize that learning to run your role as president if you were to be elected? As it's quite a lengthy question, you may take some time to think about as well. So yeah, whenever you're ready. In the meantime, for your audience, I see that there are more questions coming in, so feel free to keep it coming. But do take note that if it's not answered, you may drop it at the KYC profile comments.
Okay, so I wouldn't say that my achievements in CNS are completely unique. I would say that what I did was improve upon the previous administration. So, in terms of what I improved, my administration, we reviewed all the financial documents, financial proposal documents, all of those documents, and we improve upon those documents, making it more clearer to students and establishing that, uh, there is a certain way to fill in these things. We provided instructions for students to fill in the documents where previously there were none. And we also implemented a financial tracker for students to for clubs to see on their status of um, on the status of their financial approval. We also provided a starter package at the start of the year that we spent 2 months going through all the documents to ensure that incoming club committees had all the resources available for them to conduct their daily operations, as well as be aware of all the information that they needed to run the club. And as for mistakes, I believe that I could have done better in terms of encouraging clubs to have activities. As of right now, there are over 55 plus clubs in Monash. However, many club committees are not or they do not no longer have the motivation or the interest to continue in their current capacity. So out of those 55 plus clubs, there are quite a number of deactivated clubs. So my personal regret is that I didn't do more to encourage club committees to be active in their clubs and societies, and also promote clubs and societies in such a way that will encourage participation from students. And in terms of how that will reflect on my position as a president, I believe that these mistakes are valuable to they'll be valuable to my position as president, because I believe that as people, we learn from our mistakes, and the mistakes are stepping stones to your future. So in terms of publicity and exposure, I believe that is an important lesson already to what needs to be improved within MUSA. From there, you can also see MUSA is currently lacking in certain aspects, and that itself is reflected not just within CNS but also other departments in MUSA. Yes. And as for reviewing documentation, there are certain things that can be improved in MUSA so that we as an organization can move forward easily. For example, the MUSA handbook was last updated in 2019, and there are a lot of processes that can be updated and procedures that are in the handbook that are not applicable to the online situation. So this is something that I think needs to be reviewed. Whether online or offline, the handbook needs to be updated with the most recent procedures. And to keep in mind, if we were to move into a offline environment, the handbook will prove essential for MUSA 2022 to conduct the daily operations, since many of the candidates don't really have campus experience.
All right. Thank you so much for your elaborate answer. And I think that really helped to give the audience a better idea of that. So for Zari, hope that answers your question as well. Following this, I'll ask one more question from the audience. So to the remaining questions that were unanswered, you may drop it into the KYC comments. Thank you so much for your engagement. So from Mikey, as this was emphasized, I'll touch on this question. You mentioned a lot on what 2021 did not do, admittedly. So as an office bearer, did you ever bring up these issues? And also, how can we trust that it will be handled differently?
Okay, yes, I believe that as an office bearer, I also did have a responsibility to bring up all these issues that I'm being mentioned. And the fact that I'm here now, I would say, is an example of the way I'm trying to redeem myself. I know what exactly needs to be done, and I regret that I did not bring it up during this term. It is also a fact that as the head of CNS, I'm not really considered part of the executive committee, but I am privy to some of the information coming from the executive committee. So I regret that I did not do more in my term to ensure that MUSA as a whole could be better. So this is what I want to improve upon MUSA in my if I get elected as president, and this is a very big if. I want to improve what I saw that needs improving in MUSA, and that includes all the things that I did not mention during my term as an office bearer. And also, you mentioned how will it be handled differently. With a team and also with feedback from students, I believe that as being open-minded is key here, because we want to ensure that we want to include students in the decision-making process, not just focus within MUSA, take just the opinions of MUSA office bearers. So what I want to do differently is I want to make sure that students have a voice in MUSA for decision making, as we are as a body that is established by the students for the students. So we want to make sure that that is something that is emphasized in the coming year.
All right. So we do have a question that was slightly covered, but I think you can elaborate slightly to wrap up your statement. So from Eunice, as the overall profile of Ignitas are candidates who mostly experience online semesters, as a president, how would you ensure the smooth transition? And at the same time, meeting the students' expectations towards MUSA events, like how it was from the past, based on the spirit of carrying forward.
Okay, so in terms of your question, I agree that most candidates in my party, including myself, have only experienced an online semester. As a result, we have not really had the luxury of experiencing an on-campus semester. So in terms of a smooth transition, I think it will be hard, but as a team, we definitely can go through this. In fact, I believe that it is better for us to reach out to other seniors who have gone through the on-campus experience before us, in order to better understand like what exactly are the challenges that we will be facing. In fact, many of these previous office bearers, for example, those from 2019 and before, they are still around, and it's not impossible for us to approach them to inquire on what to expect, what can be done, what are the challenges that we will be facing during a physical semester. So at the same time, you also ask, how are we going to meet the students' expectation on campus based on how the spirit is carried forward. I believe that because that we have experienced an online semester for almost 2 years, there is a longing for being on campus. Okay, and in order to meet these expectations, many students who are currently doing Zoom University, they do not have the experience like what is campus life all about. So we need to introduce them to based on previous content on, for example, Monga's Facebook, where all the archives of events are stored. And we need to make sure that our team in MUSA 2022 is prepared to handle such a commitment. And that means a lot of preparation and research into being done, what exactly is needed to be done by Ignitas and all the future office bearers of MUSA 2022. At the same time, an entire generation of students has graduated from Monash, but that doesn't mean that their spirit is fading away. In fact, it's carried forward by the stories of how grand that, the stories of how life in Monash used to be. So I believe that by embodying this spirit and by making enough preparations, it is possible for MUSA 2022 to move forward and ensure that there's a better on-campus experience for all Monashians next year.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer. And to Eunice, I hope that has answered your question. If not, you may follow up via the KYC profile comments. Okay. So before we wrap up the Q&A session, I'll hand over to the office bearers to add in any follow-up questions he may have or make a closing remark in regards to the Q&A.
So if great that you present a lot of ideas for today. And yeah, I do appreciate your answer for all the questions I have. Yes, you do good in presenting all the questions from the candidate or from the audience. So my advice to you is that as president, what you did will highly affect the whole MUSA organization student populations. So like what present just now, like the editors voting rights, you need to think the consequence and how it will affect the whole population. I do agree that last year I also have seen a once idea to make everything at once. But the reality is, as a leader, you need to know what you are going to do is able for everyone to follow up with you instead of you two at once. Because being two at once, you also kill the whole bonding of a team because everyone cannot follow a pathway. So this is my advice to you. And for all the pressure you face today, I know this is very overwhelming for you. And this will be the pressure for you throughout the year 2022 if you get elected as president, because you always get a lot of negative feedback or some suggestions or maybe some compliment from the student population. Every feedback does have their own weight, and this sometimes will make you down, sometimes will make you up. But as a leader, you need to know how to move forward with this and also make your actions to be more reliable, and also you can guide the whole MUSA to a better direction. I hope what you have promised today, what you have planned today, what you have received from the audience and also office barrier or others are senior, it will be helpful for you to work on your strategy as a better leader. Yeah, that's all from my side.
All right, thank you so much. So before we move on to the closing statement, just another reminder for our audience. If your questions were not answered, please drop it into the KYC profile on the comment section and the candidates will answer them accordingly. And to everyone who has contributed their questions, their time, as well as their support towards the candidates, I would sincerely like to thank everyone for doing so, as the debates would not be the same without you. And on behalf of the Election Commission, we would like to thank everyone for your support and participation in the past 4 days of the debates. It's been long and not easy for the candidates, but good job to all the candidates and really wishing you all the best for the upcoming remainder of the election period. Okay, so without any further delay, we'll move on to the closing statement from our president candidate, Dominic.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you for all the questions raised by the president and all the students watching. I believe that they will definitely help me to better understand all of the concerns and issues, and as well as the job scope and the roles and responsibilities that should be played by the president, and that what is needed to be taken note of should I be elected. And for everyone who came to support me, I'm grateful that all of you showed up for tonight's session and the opportunity to present myself on this stage. Being a president is no easy job, but I'm sure that I'll be able to accomplish everything that I set out to do alongside my team. As the debates are drawing to a close, I just want to emphasize that this is just the beginning. If I'm elected, I will do my utmost to ensure that MUSA 2022 will sincerely listen to the feedback from students and improve ourselves so that we may better accomplish our goals. I know many of you still have questions to ask, and I gladly welcome the opportunity to answer them. So feel free to reach out to me and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. I also want to apologize for my performance tonight if it was unsatisfactory to many of you. I'm sure some of you would agree that I could have done better during this debate. And with that, I just want to conclude my closing statement with the party motto, and that is "Together we rise." Thank you.
All right, thank you for the simple yet direct closing statement. So before I close this session, once again, thank you to everyone who has contributed to making the debates possible, which includes the office bearers, the candidates, the election commission, election committee, as well as all the students who have participated and engaged throughout. So for the remaining time of the elections, we will have the voting period as well as the results ceremony, which will be taking place on the 13th at 6 p.m. So for more details, please make sure you keep up to date with the official MUSA Instagram page, or if you want clearer details, you may also refer to our MUSA website. All right, so to all the candidates with the remaining period of time, I just want to remind you that you've already taken this step forward. So rather than regret what you have already done, focus on the future to see what else you can still do. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. And regardless of how you feel or how disappointed or how unhappy you might have been, just remember that you're the one of the few who have taken the leap of faith to go on this journey. So it's not easy, and really wishing everyone all the best. So, with on that note, thank you everyone, and that'll be all for the debate series. Take care and stay safe.